Thank you for joining us. If you are just joining us, usually we give you the top 10 stories of the morning. Obviously, this is the main story that we are covering today. The earthquake in Japan, the tsunami warnings that followed. And again, we are now hearing that police have found, 200 to 300 bodies after the water just came rushing through in Sendai. Now at this hour, number of missing, it's still unknown. Obviously, the number of dead expected to continue. We're taking another live look in Hawaii, but again, it's still very early there. So it is dark and you can't see much at this point. We have had some good views of where the water is receding and then coming back in from Hawaii News Now. We don't have that shot just yet.
Let's not lose track of what's happening locally, and some folks still have to get to work this morning. Here's Officer Rich.
Paul and Amma, good morning. I just spoke to officials along the coast in the San Francisco-Oakland Bay area, and I can tell you at this time, Highway 1 remains open. With that said, officers are standing by along the coast waiting for the results of what goes on in Hawaii to determine if Highway 1 will be shut down. But at this time, it's open. San Francisco Police has shut down Ocean Beach. This is near the Cliff House. And if you ride BART, call ahead. They still haven't made a decision if they're going to close the tube between the East Bay and San Francisco. Full report coming up.
This is Fox 40 Live.
And good morning. We really want to be responsible and not hype the threat too much to those of us that are here on the West Coast. When we first arrived at work this morning, I got up extra early. I was in here by about 2:30. The estimate of the tsunami, the increase in sea level as it makes its way across the Pacific, they were saying perhaps 6 feet in Hawaii, 3 feet as it gets to the West Coast. So far, we've not heard of any increase in the water height above 1.5 feet to perhaps 2 feet in Hawaii. So we're very optimistic that, as Officer Rich just said, they won't be closing any BART tunnels, that we will not be seeing any kind of significant damage here. That having said, it's hard to put a number on the estimate. We had estimates of at least 60 people killed before we heard, as a result of the flood, 200 to 300 bodies in Sendai. And once again, look at the map on laptop number 3. The large island of Japan is called Honshu. That's where Tokyo is, and Mount Fuji and Osaka and a lot of major cities that you know. This occurred just off the East Coast, fairly high up into the north. Keep in mind, it is not the earthquake generally that causes vast amounts of death. It is the subsequent flooding. Well, we're going to be getting a live report here in just a minute. The top 10 stories, we just push that aside as we look at the main story affecting the world this morning. We go live to Nicole Collins in Washington, D.C. with CNN.
The death toll in Japan following that massive 8.9 magnitude quake has jumped sharply just in the last few minutes. Police in the country saying they found between 200 and 300 bodies near the epicenter in the city of Sendai.
This scene captured on tape as a powerful earthquake hit northern Japan. Inside this office building in the city of Sendai, people clung to their chairs, bookshelves swayed side to side. Outside, cars sent over bridges, cracked buildings, shattered glass, and residents shaken by the massive quake. A number of strong aftershocks were felt in Tokyo, which is about 230 miles away from the epicenter of the quake. Bus and train service was brought to a halt. At CNN's bureau there, videotapes hit the floor, and so did this worker as she took cover. One resident described the quake as the worst he's felt in the 8 years he's lived in the country.
It was absolutely unlike anything I've ever experienced before. It was a beautiful spring day. It was sunny outside. I had just come home from a little errand to the grocery store, and all of a sudden, bam, it just hit. And you could tell this was different instantly from other little tremors that we've had before. I mean, it just picked up in intensity, it ramped up.
The quake triggered a tsunami, washing away cars, boats, and buildings on Japan's northeastern coast. Tsunami warnings have been issued in at least 20 countries. That includes the entire U.S. West Coast and Hawaii.
At every single gas station on the island, there is a very long line of cars. People are filling up their tanks. They're going to grocery stores right now. They're preparing. What people are being told is to evacuate inland about a half mile and to get to higher ground.
The tsunami waves are now rolling onto the shores of Hawaii with readings showing that waves may get as big as 6 to 8 feet in some areas. Reporting live in Washington, I'm Nicole Collins. Now back to you.
All right, Nicole, thank you so much. Much of the earthquake was caught on tape. Let's take a look at the moment the quake hit. This video, I think she maybe showed you a little bit of it, or video like it, was taken from inside an office.
And let's let it play.
Yeah.
Listen and look how long it goes.
And it's frightening just watching that. You can see some of the people obviously in shock, just covering their head with whatever they had, other people getting under desks. Wow.
Yeah, as someone with the presence of mind to shoot that for so long, and I was happy to see them finally get under a desk themselves. Sendai in Japan is a city of about 1 million people. It's the largest city closest to the epicenter of the earthquake, which is about 80 miles offshore. And the damage is just tragic and breathtaking. Earthquakes are pretty common in Japan. The country accounts for about 20% of the world's earthquakes above magnitude 6, but that doesn't prepare you for something like that. Listen to a man who was there when it hit.
It was absolutely unlike anything I've ever experienced before. I've been living here for 8 years now, and this was quite simply the biggest, longest-lasting earthquake I've ever experienced here.
Yeah, and those of us that have grown up in California, they kind of get to be no big deal, but this...
That's a big deal.
Yeah, here is some of the image, and there's so much footage of the tsunami. I mentioned earlier, I was up too late last night. It was about 10:30 when I flipped on Fox 40 News at 10, and I watched along with Donna and Stephanie, and they did a great job of just reacting as we looked at the live images last night. And we can actually drop now. I believe we got the USGS talking about waves in Hawaii. Can we catch that now? Here we go.
And that was the 6-foot one?
They were both 6
Okay.
feet. Yeah. Now, I don't know what's going on because I'm not in there.
That's Dr. Kahului Harbor.
Kahului Harbor, yes.
And Dr. The biggest you've seen.
That's the biggest we've seen so far. Yes.
6 feet
If you've got
swell.
6 feet in Kahului, you mentioned also Hilo may see some significant sea level changes. Do you have any other readings for us at gauges around the state? Any particular locations you can tell us how far the sea level has fluctuated?
Well, the first place we saw it, the first gauge we had was Hanalei, and there it went up about what was it, about 2.5 feet, and then went down, and then that's, as I came out here, that was growing again, and it looked like it hadn't topped out. So this is playing out slowly.
Anything on Oahu?
Yeah, we saw it. It arrived at Makapu'u. We've got a couple of feet in Honolulu. Right now there are probably some pretty fierce currents in the entry to Honolulu Harbor and to Pearl Harbor.
Doctor, can you go over again to folks out there who are watching right now some of the areas that you are more concerned about? People, if they're in a particular area, say Kahului Bay, as you mentioned, possibly in Hilo. Just go over a few of the areas that definitely have a higher potential of being a risk area that you guys are looking more closely at right now.
Well, the areas that are the most risky are the ones where, if you look in the evacuation maps that are in the phone book or online, they're the ones where there's where the evacuation zone extends furthest from the ocean. So another potential danger spot is Haleiwa on Oahu. The Haleiwa gauge didn't look quite so bad, at least not from the first couple of waves. But who knows? By now, I should just go back and come right back out and report to you.
Just real quickly, you had mentioned that we are kind of halfway between potentially another wave coming our way. Do you have a time frame at this point in time as to the separation between waves, or is it still too early for you guys to guesstimate?
They're about 15 minutes apart, as little as 10 minutes and as much as 20 minutes, but yeah, about 15 minutes apart. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. And that is the latest.
I will be right back.
Tsunami Center.
He will be right back. So we have
Promise.
He promises he will be right back, but there you hear.
All right, so again, you were taking a live look there. We were listening to somebody from the USGS, and our producer Jessica has an Aunt Judy.
Yeah, Judy Alderson spoke with us earlier. Judy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us again. We were just listening to the USGS tell us that 6-foot tsunami waves, and I know you're not fond of the word waves, but increases in the sea level have been measured there in Hawaii. What are you experiencing there so far?
Actually, we're not experiencing a whole lot. There is a rise in our, we are getting some activity, but nothing that's threatening to anybody here. It's really very quiet. The sirens have stopped. In fact, what you were listening to on the news was on my news at the same time.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. We talked to somebody in Pearl City who said there was a feeling in the islands of nobody's gone to bed. Everybody was staying up. They knew this was coming, and they've been following the news closely. Do you have that same sense?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Everybody's been plugged in and waiting to see if something would happen, and kind of all relieved that it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, I'm assuming, and I know you're not there where the big waves come in and the surfers are, but a 6-foot wave is something Hawaii can weather without any problems. As far as you're concerned, no great concern now in Hawaii?
Yeah, a 6-foot wave really actually isn't anything for us. It's, I would think more of the speed of the water coming in and the strength of the water was something that we were worried about. Hilo saw a little bit more activity than we did, and that's about, 150 miles away from me on the other side. But no, I'm really very happy that this is just a waiting game. We did well.
Okay, 4:09 in Hawaii. Is it time to go to bed yet?
Yeah, it is time.
You feel like the danger's behind, I assume.
Yeah,
so.
I definitely feel very calm now. And thanks for you guys for doing such a good job. And hi, Jessica.
She's producing this very hour. I assure you she's nodding her head in the control room right now. Judy,
well, I'm very proud of her.
we are too. Judy, she's fun to work with, and thank you for taking the time to chat with us this morning.
Hey, have a good day.
You bet. Night. At 6:09 at Fox 40 Live. Now, the tsunami, and we're happy to report that no damage that we know of in Hawaii, is still making its way across the Pacific Ocean. In fact, let me pull up these images for you one more time. Look at laptop number 3. This is the tsunami travel time. The epicenter just off northeastern Japan is here where the star is. You might have to get close to your screen. I'll try to make this a little bit bigger for you here. And these radiating lines are the waves as they make their way across the Pacific Ocean, and the amount of time it takes. In 3 hours, it will have traveled this far, making its way across the Pacific. It has already passed Hawaii, and it will be more than 9 hours after the quake that it reaches the West Coast. In fact, we're looking at after 8 a.m., so about 2 hours away now that it's hitting California and the Great Northwest, and we will continue to follow that. And in fact, Dennis is going to kind of show us who, if there is danger, who is in danger.
Well, what we're seeing from Hawaii is definitely good news. It bodes well for California, but that doesn't mean the tsunami warnings have expired. They're still in effect for the western coast of California. Now, these are the times that the National Weather Service has issued for when the first wave will hit certain areas. 7:23 in Crescent City. Speaking of Crescent City, I want to break away to some video right now. Annalie Penny has this called up on a laptop in the control room. This is from 1964. People standing that evacuated from the coast, and you can see the wave that hit in March of 1964 and how much destruction it did in Crescent City. Now, this was from a very powerful earthquake that was in Alaska, and of course, that being quite a bit closer than Japan, so a very different situation there, but it shows the California coast not immune to damage. As a matter of fact, 300 buildings were destroyed in that tsunami that hit in March this month of 1964. Okay, we'll go from there and back to the map and show you that was where it happened, Crescent City, where the wave is expected to start. The tsunami is expected to bring some increased waves at about 7:23. Those waves should reach about 3.6 feet at Point Arena. That's just west of Ukiah. Now, San Francisco, the tsunami warning goes into effect at 8:08 this morning for a 2.3-foot swell, and that is around Pacifica. And then for Monterey, it should be about 2.8 feet. Now, again, how much of an impact it's going to have really remains to be seen. Definitely, if you're standing on the beach, you're going to be in the line of fire there. But as far as these waves going off the beaches into inland areas, not likely, especially with what we're seeing in Hawaii. But again, the warning is still in effect. Now, I want to show you this other feature on our computer that does detect earthquakes. And you see, in the past 24 hours, anywhere you see these circles on the map, that's an earthquake. And you can see around Bakersfield, there was one at 8:51 last night, 3.4 magnitude. And just southeast of Los Angeles, there was one 3.2. Now, keep that in mind. This happens every day. But now we'll go to Japan, and that shows the number of earthquakes they've had in the past 24 hours. The largest one, of course, being the it's that large circle you see right there. And when we click in the center of the circle, you see the third, 946, the third index down here, magnitude 8.9. And then the others are aftershocks. We have magnitude 5.2, we have a magnitude 5.4. Now, I saw another very large circle out here, and we're going to click on that. And there's a 6.1 aftershock and a 7.1 aftershock at 10:25. That, my friends, is an aftershock. Any one of these circles, if you click in the center of it, is going to show you magnitudes 5.4, 5.5, magnitudes that for us would be a very significant earthquake. And these, again, are just off the coast of Japan, and they are continuing to get those every few minutes.
Yeah, in fact, we reported the 7.2 earthquake 2 days ago, and it may just have been a run-up to this off the coast of Japan. Boy, Dennis, you set us up very well for our next guest, showing us the images from 1964 in Crescent City. More than 1,000 cars were swept away when that tsunami hit the West Coast.
Yeah, and we have April Hilton on the phone right now. And April, we hear you are going into downtown Crescent City right now, or near the area, because it's being evacuated. You're going to get your kids.
Yes, I live in Marysville. We haven't left yet. We just heard about the tsunami warning at 4 this morning. My daughter called, so I had called into the station to see what I should do, if I should go 101 or 5.
Yeah, and again, I hopefully they were able to help you. I'm away from traffic resources in that regard right now. In fact, we'll put somebody on that there. But now, were you a Crescent City resident for a long time, or you just have family there?
Oh, I used to live there.
Okay. Now, it's very inappropriate for me to ask your age, but I'm wondering, were you around in 1964?
No, I wasn't living there then. I moved there in the 80s.
Okay. Is there a sense of having lived there, though, is that something that's on people's minds there? Because I was just did a little research. Between 1934 and 1996, there were 17 tsunami warnings or tsunami events in Crescent City. It appears to just really be in a hot spot for these kinds of meteorological events.
I have experienced 3 of the tsunami warnings. It's nerve-wracking. They evacuate us toward Gasky area up the 99, I believe it is. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm like right now kind of nervous because I need to go get my kids, but I don't know if it's going to hit or not.
Let me correct myself. They're geological events when these things happen. So you're on your way there now? Do we have you in the car, or are you waiting to get your travel plans?
I'm sitting in my house watching your news, trying to figure out what to do as far as traveling.
Yeah, I will tell you this. We are hearing, and I'm happy to report this, the impact of this tsunami as it hits Hawaii was less than anticipated, and now that we're approaching the west coast of the United States, they were saying it might be as much as 3 feet, and now perhaps lower than that. There was some concern in the Bay Area of closing things like the BART tube, and we're hearing that they are not planning on doing that now. So, and speculation on my part, I suspect all of our freeways and highways should be clear and good to go, but we'll try to double check that for you.
April, though, I will let you know that I was just checking the Washington Post, and they say traffic is heavy along 101 near the Oregon border, Crescent City, up near the border there, obviously, as people are trying to evacuate. So, but you're
going the other way.
You're not going to be able to avoid it once you get right there.
Going towards the hot spot. Good luck to you, and thank you for taking the time, you bet, to talk to us on the air this morning. 6:16 at Fox 40 Live, and Joe has the unenviable job this morning of giving us some hard numbers.
Yeah, guys, we were talking about the 200 to 300 people that had been killed in Sendai. Well, there's another 195 that have been confirmed killed in that country as well as a result of this. I wanted to show you guys what was going on here. This is a nuclear power plant in Angawa, which is also in Japan. And one of the problems, there has been a nuclear emergency declared for this particular area and throughout the country because apparently there was a failure in the water cooling system, and so that sparked some fires at this particular facility. So in other words, whenever there is a nuclear emergency, it's usually because there is a problem with the cooling system or because there is a radioactive leak. Now, no radioactive leak has been declared at this point, but we do know that there is a problem that's been affected by the water cooling system within this particular facility, which is a facility known as Anagawa in the country of Japan. So they're dealing with that as well, nuclear reactor problems. We talked about it earlier in the show, and the fact that they were rocking, and we saw video of one particular that was shaking pretty well this morning after the earthquake and tsunami hit. So there is a trickle-down effect as a result of that right now, guys. We just saw that there has been a nuclear emergency declared in that country.
Yeah, our understanding is they shut down several nuclear power plants and shut down several airports as well. And in that one particular one, Joe, they are working on getting backup power for cooling.
Yep.
So we'll see how they do. It's 8:16. Before we go to Southern California, yes?
Before we go there, we forget that Alaska, part of the United States, farther west than the West Coast. And this is off Washington Post. Alaska's emergency management says the tsunami from that earthquake caused a wave or a surge just over 5 feet at Shemya, which is 1,200 miles southwest of Anchorage. So far, no damage has been reported, but they are already feeling this now.
And as a segue to Southern California, let's take one more look at this map here on laptop number 3. Again, this is the tsunami radiating out from the epicenter. Alaska up here, and of course we have U.S. islands that head far west from there. The further down the west coast you go, the further you get from the epicenter. So in Southern California, the impact should be noticeably less, but let's find out. We head down to Southern California. Right now, it's 6:19 at Fox 40 Live, and what do we know now? Gail?
Gail Anderson here in Corona Del Mar, Orange County, with Jim Amermino of the Orange County Sheriff's Department. We're at Harbor Patrol. We're learning from you that we are under an advisory, not a warning, but that still means a number of precautions are being taken. Is that right, Mr. Amermino?
That's correct. All the beaches in Orange County have been closed since
that happened at 5 o'clock.
Correct. 5 o'clock this morning. All the beaches, all the piers, all the harbors, all the marinas, all the hiking trails near any beaches. Of course, no swimming, no surfing, no fishing.
And your concern, you're telling me, is not so much the size of the waves, it's the current.
That's correct. Tsunami produces a series of waves, the first one not being the most powerful, but our real concern is the dangerous current. So we're advising everybody to stay out of the water. The currents are extremely dangerous.
For how long?
Well, it's hard to say. The waves should hit the Orange County area between 8:37 and 8:45. So we're going to take a look at it at that time and see how long they last. But remember, a tsunami event is a series of waves that could last for hours.
And what about evacuations? Because there's some low-lying areas here that flood even when it's heavy rain.
We do not expect a lot of coastal flooding, but we are evacuating any people that live on boats, and there are a number of people that live on boats here in Orange County.
Any suggestions to people who are on the water, living or have some sort of business on the water? Should they go farther out to sea?
Yes, it's safe once you go out about 3 miles out. So the larger boats, we are allowing to go out about 3 miles. If they live and stay in the harbor, if it's a permanent residence, we are evacuating them.
And when do we expect to see this storm surge?
Around 8:45 this morning, a series of waves, and we'll take it from there after that.
All right. Again, giving you the latest update here from Corona Del Mar in Orange County with Jim Amermino, Orange County Sheriff's Department.
Gail, thanks, Gail Anderson.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate that. 6:21 at Fox 40 Live. We will continue to bring you the latest out of Japan, the tsunami warnings, and this tsunami as it makes its way across the Pacific and towards our coast. This is Fox 40 Live.